Brad Pitt isn't just famous, he's unstoppable. Despite flops that would end most careers, he always bounces back, proving he's more than a pretty face. How did this Hollywood outsider rise to the top without connections? And why do failures only add to his legend? Let's explore the incredible journey of Brad Pitt, a story of resilience and star power. Buckle up. Early career. Brad Pitt's journey to stardom began when he left college and drove to Los Angeles with a dream and $350 in his pocket. Compared to Sylvester Stallone's legendary $10 start, Pitt joked he was practically a millionaire. But even with this fortune, the grind was real. He worked as a chicken mascot promoting diners, delivered pizza and Chinese food, and hustled for uncredited film roles, where his name didn't even make it to the screen. Like many aspiring actors in the 80s, Pitt idolized Mickey Rourke, who was then considered Hollywood's next big thing. Ironically, Rourke's pivot to boxing would later serve as a cautionary tale, while Pitt was gearing up to carve his own path in Hollywood. He started landing roles in low-budget horror films, often being killed off in bizarre ways. A far cry from leading man material, but at least he was getting noticed. One of Pitt's earliest roles in The Dark Side of the Sun, where he played a man allergic to sunlight, seemed like a breakthrough. But the Yugoslav-American production was shelved for years due to political turmoil. It wasn't until 1997, after Pitt became a star, that the producers dusted it off to cash in on his fame. Meanwhile, Pitt was keeping his career afloat with commercials, most notably for Pringles, and guest appearances on TV shows. Off-screen, Pitt had his share of close calls, including a brush with disaster involving heavyweight boxing champ Mike Tyson. At the time, Pitt was spending time with Robin Givens, Tyson's soon-to-be ex-wife. When Tyson found them together in her car, Brad's life may have been saved by his disarming smile and quick thinking, pretending to be Tyson's biggest fan. Somehow, the champ let him go unharmed. What's your favorite Brad Pitt movie from his early days? Let us know in the comments. Brad Pitt, A Rocky Road to Stardom. Brad Pitt's journey to Hollywood stardom wasn't an overnight success, but a roller coaster of hits, misses, and near disasters. His first major break came with Thelma and Louise, but the road to landing the role was as dramatic as the movie itself. Originally a vehicle for Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep, the film passed through multiple hands before landing with Ridley Scott, who turned it into the iconic road movie we know today. Casting Pitt wasn't straightforward either. William Baldwin was the first pick but bailed for a bigger opportunity. Robert Downey Jr. was next, but his height didn't match Gina Davis's statuesque frame, earning him a swift rejection. George Clooney was also considered, but Scott couldn't take him seriously in a cowboy hat. Finally, Pitt emerged as the last man standing, and his undeniable charm sealed the deal. His performance as the sultry drifter not only made him a breakout star, but also launched his status as a Hollywood sex symbol. However, early fame came with its share of setbacks. Following Thelma and Louise, Pitt signed on for Cool World, an ambitious mix of animation and live action with a hefty $30 million budget. Originally envisioned as a dark, adult-themed Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the film's concept was abruptly watered down to appeal to teens. The result? A chaotic mess that flopped at the box office, earning just $14 million and left critics baffled. Released alongside Universal Soldier, it couldn't compete, and Pitt's momentum stumbled. He followed this with The Favor, another flop, though his small role spared him much criticism. Just when Pitt's career seemed at risk of stalling, Robert Redford came to the rescue. Redford, directing A River Runs Through It, saw a younger version of himself in Pitt's Thelma and Louise performance. Despite botching his first audition, Pitt didn't give up. He sent in a second audition tape, impressing Redford enough to cast him over River Phoenix. The film became a critical and commercial success, grossing $66 million, on a $12 million budget and earning multiple Oscar nominations. While Pitt didn't receive any awards recognition, the role established him as more than just a pretty face. He was now a serious actor with undeniable potential. Building on this momentum, Pitt took on California, earning $800,000 for his chilling portrayal of a sociopathic drifter. Though the film struggled at the box office, critics praised Pitt's performance, marking his first foray into darker, more complex characters. Around the same time, he appeared in True Romance, a Quentin Tarantino-penned cult classic. While Pitt's role as a stoner roommate was minor, the film's critical success added to his growing reputation. These early years showcased Pitt's resilience and willingness to take risks. Even in the face of flops like Cool World, he pressed on, delivering standout performances that hinted at his range and depth. Brad Pitt, from vampire suffering to stardom. Brad Pitt's big break with Interview with the Vampire came at a cost, both emotional and physical. Filming was a grueling ordeal. Hung upside down to achieve a blood-rushed look and forced to wear allergic contact lenses, Pitt's misery extended beyond the set. He loathed spending 6 gloomy months in London, a city he found darker than the film's themes. Just a week into production, Pitt wanted out. The producers reminded him of the $60 million blockbuster budget, and more importantly, the $40 million penalty he'd owe if he broke contract, an unpayable sum at the time. Reluctantly, he stayed. His troubles didn't end there. Sharing the screen with Tom Cruise proved challenging. The two reportedly clashed over everything, from Cruise's acting tips to Pitt's alleged refusal to use deodorant. Cruise's influence led to Pitt's screen time being trimmed, sparking rumors that Pitt began keeping a blacklist of actors he'd never work with again, Cruise's name at the top. Despite this drama, Pitt's on-screen suffering unintentionally added depth to his character. The film became a massive success, grossing $224 million, solidifying Pitt's status as a leading man, even if Cruise allegedly made sure Pitt's face disappeared from promotional posters. 6 months later, Legends of the Fall hit theaters, continuing Pitt's meteoric rise. He signed on for the role before his vampire success, playing a rugged, relatable character in stark contrast to the supernatural brooding of his previous film. Originally intended for Tom Cruise and Sean Connery, and briefly considered by Johnny Depp, the film found its way to Pitt and a $30 million budget. It went on to earn $160 million, with Pitt landing a Golden Globe nomination for Best Dramatic Actor. With his newfound success, Pitt upgraded to a luxurious mansion, complete with a pool and high-end security. But his Hollywood glow dimmed momentarily when a thief, rumored to be some Ethan Hunt type, broke in, stealing little more than Pitt's dignity. These two films not only cemented Pitt's reputation as a box office star, but also showcased his ability to endure off-screen challenges and channel them into unforgettable performances. Enjoying the video? Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more Hollywood deep dives. Brad Pitt trading Apollo for C7N and striking gold. In 1995, Brad Pitt took a surprising turn, accepting a pay cut for C7N, a gritty thriller that would become one of his most celebrated films. After his 1994 successes inflated his standard fee by an extra zero, Pitt shocked Hollywood by dropping from $6 million to $4 million for the role. But his gamble paid off, literally. Thanks to a distribution deal, Pitt pocketed an additional $3 million as the film grossed a staggering $327 million on a $33 million budget. Pitt's commitment to SE7N meant saying no to Apollo 13, a decision that turned heads at the time. Behind the scenes, David Fincher employed his own clever strategy to assemble the cast. When Gwyneth Paltrow initially declined the role, Fincher cast Pitt, betting their off-screen chemistry would sway her. The plan worked, and the duo's pairing became one of the film's highlights. Interestingly, Sylvester Stallone and Denzel Washington both passed on C7N, later admitting they underestimated the script's potential, calling it too violent. Imagine Stallone in Pitt's role. Wild, right? Let us know in the comments which Pitt role would fit Stallone best, but only your worst guesses. Pitt still considers C7 the best film he's ever made, and for good reason. His on-screen chemistry with Morgan Freeman and the uncompromising creative vision of Fincher made the movie a masterpiece. Full creative control wasn't common in Hollywood, but Pitt and Freeman's support ensured Fincher got it. Stallone, on the other hand, would have likely sprinted to another action flick if asked to work under such conditions. The result? A genre-defining thriller that became a global hit, solidified Pitt's acting chops, and proved his willingness to take risks. While Pitt earned millions from the film, it's a good thing. He'd soon find himself taking on projects for little more than a bag of chips. Stay tuned for more. Brad Pitt, from romantic heartthrob to Oscar-nominated maverick. Looking to break free from his romantic lead image, Brad Pitt took a bold step in 1995, joining Terry Gilliam's 12 Monkeys. The sci-fi psychological thriller offered Pitt a chance to transform his persona entirely. For his efforts, Pitt earned just $100,000, a fraction of his usual fee. Even Bruce Willis, who co-starred in the film, was paid less than his standard rate, agreeing to work for a percentage of the box office earnings after producers couldn't scrape together his modest $500,000 fee. Johnny Depp reportedly vied for the role Pitt landed, and in hindsight, his knack for portraying quirky, unhinged characters might have fit the part. But Gilliam wanted Pitt, who brought a manic Tasmanian devil-like energy that created a stark contrast to his romantic past. To hone this frenetic performance, Gilliam went so far as to ban Pitt from smoking on set, a move that seemed to unlock a new level of intensity. The result? Pitt won a Golden Globe and snagged his first Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. The film itself wasn't without challenges. Test screenings were disastrous, with audiences complaining about its non-linear structure and eccentric tone. Studio executives nearly forced cuts, but Gilliam and his team argued that these very quirks would set 12 Monkeys apart. They were right. On a $29 million budget, the film earned $169 million, cementing Pitt's reputation as a versatile and daring actor. Flush with success, Pitt shifted gears again for sleepers, starring alongside legends like Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, and Kevin Bacon. This time, Pitt's star power commanded a hefty $10 million fee. The film performed well at the box office, but it marked a turning point. From here on, Pitt's choices became more erratic, with critics speculating he may have started prioritizing paychecks over scripts. Still, 12 Monkeys remains a career-defining moment, proving Pitt could deliver more than just a pretty face. Do you think Pitt's transformation in 12 Monkeys was his best acting leap? Share your thoughts below. Brad Pitt, a greedy stumble in the late 90s. By 1997, Brad Pitt's career was riding high, but greed and missteps were about to knock him down a peg. He starred in 2 big budget films that year, The Devil's Own and 7 Years in Tibet. While 7 Years in Tibet garnered decent audience scores despite poor critical reviews, The Devil's Own flopped on all fronts. Adding insult to injury, Pitt earned a lifetime ban from visiting China for 7 years in Tibet and was awarded the dubious honor of having the 3rd worst accent in Hollywood history by Empire magazine. At least his accent struggles would later come in handy for a certain comedic role. The Devil's Own also introduced another name to Pitt's infamous crap list. Pitt initially signed on expecting a fun, gritty story, imagining his character brawling to Irish music in a junkie house. But when he recommended Harrison Ford for a supporting role, things unraveled. Ford, ever the Hollywood heavyweight, reshaped the project, and by the end of filming, the plot had morphed into something entirely different. Tensions ran high, with Ford publicly describing Pitt as too young and forgetful. Rumors of on-set physical altercations were denied, but the drama was undeniable. Constant rewrites and reshoots inflated the budget to $90 million, and after test screenings, 40 minutes were cut, further diluting the story. The film earned $141 million, with Ford pocketing $20 million and Pitt $12 million. Hardly worth the chaos. Meanwhile, 7 Years in Tibet wasn't much better. Despite its beautiful cinematography, the film grossed $131 million against a $70 million budget, leaving Pitt with critical scorn and a ban from a major global market. The late 90s weren't kind to Pitt's box office reputation. He turned down Tony Scott's The Fan, ironically also a flop, because he wanted Robert De Niro's lead role. Pitt's next outing, Meet Joe Black, earned him a record-breaking $17.5 million paycheck, but it came with fresh regrets. Pitt pushed for Anthony Hopkins to join the cast, only to clash with him on set. Hopkins refused to do multiple takes of scenes, frustrating director Martin Brest and creating further tension. The film's bloated 3-hour runtime tested audience patience, yet Brest refused to cut it, leading to a box office dud. The movie was so controversial that Brest demanded his name be removed from the credits, replacing it with the infamous pseudonym Alan Smithy. Ironically, the film still managed to make some money, thanks to Star Wars. Fans flocked to theaters for the Phantom Menace trailer, which was screened before Meet Joe Black, giving it an artificially inflated opening weekend. Still, this marked Pitt's third consecutive flop, with another just around the corner. Despite a few recent hits, the late 90s were proving that even Brad Pitt wasn't immune to poor choices and bad luck. Brad Pitt, from flop to Fight Club fame and beyond. Brad Pitt's fourth consecutive flop came with Fight Club, now a cult classic but a box office letdown at the time. Lured into the project by David Fincher, Pitt often joked that Fincher was a pain in the ass on set. Case in point, Pitt and Helena Bonham Carter spent 3 days in a studio recording moans for their bedroom scene, much to Fincher's exacting delight. While the final edits made it into the film, what didn't might remain in Fincher's personal collection. Fincher's obsession with perfection extended beyond the actors. He once had a stuntman toss down the stairs all day, only to use the very first take. With a $63 million budget and only $101 million in box office earnings, Fight Club was labeled a financial failure. However, the film's long-term impact cannot be overstated. Its massive success on DVD transformed it into one of Fox's best-selling home releases, solidifying its status as a cult phenomenon. For Pitt, Fight Club marked a turning point. He shifted away from chasing paychecks and took on projects he was genuinely passionate about. His next role came in Guy Ritchie's Snatch, where Pitt's love for Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels drove him to beg Ritchie for a part. Initially eyeing Jason Statham's role, Pitt's attempt at a British accent was so bad that Ritchie reimagined him as a fast-talking gypsy boxer. The film, made on a $10 million budget, grossed $84 million and showcased Pitt's comedic timing and physicality. Following Snatch, Pitt kept his momentum with The Mexican, cutting his fee to $5 million for the quirky romantic comedy crime mix. Around this time, Pitt passed on The Bourne Identity due to delays in production, paving the way for Matt Damon's rise as an action star. Instead, Pitt starred in Tony Scott's Spy Game alongside Robert Redford. While the film grossed $143 million on a $115 million budget, it was underwhelming compared to Damon's Bourne success. Pitt rebounded with Ocean's 11, a project he initially hesitated to join. Persuaded by George Clooney, Pitt agreed to a pay cut in exchange for the highest profit percentage, walking away with a staggering $30 million. This marked the beginning of a lucrative franchise that kept his box office appeal intact. He followed with Troy, a $175 million epic, that performed decently but failed to meet expectations, earning $497 million globally. Despite its earnings, the film's high budget branded it a financial disappointment. Pitt avoided further risk by skipping Oliver Stone's Alexander after hearing about its controversial elements, opting instead for safer projects like Ocean's 12 and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Both were box office successes, helping to cement Pitt's position as one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. Despite his missteps, Fight Club and the years that followed reshaped Pitt's career, showing his ability to recover from failures and find success by balancing risks with blockbuster choices. From cult classics to crowd pleasers, Pitt proved that even when he stumbled, he never stayed down for long. If you're loving this content, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more iconic stories. Brangelina, a blockbuster on and off the screen. Mr. and Mrs. Smith wasn't just a blockbuster, it was the spark that created Hollywood's most iconic power couple of the 2000s, Brangelina. Originally, Nicole Kidman was set to play Mrs. Smith, but her exit almost caused Brad Pitt to bail as well. That changed when Angelina Jolie joined the cast. Pitt quickly re-signed, reportedly eager to work alongside her. The chemistry was undeniable, both on screen and off, as the film marked the beginning of their highly publicized relationship. Despite production troubles and extensive post-production challenges, Mr. and Mrs. Smith exceeded all expectations, grossing $487 million against a $110 million budget. However, not everything made it to the final cut. Most of Pitt and Jolie's bedroom scenes were axed to secure a teen-friendly rating. The film's massive success solidified Pitt's stardom, but it also fueled his desire to pursue more serious projects. Pitt's next step was Babel, a harrowing drama for which he took a modest $1 million fee. The gamble paid off, as the film earned $135 million on a $25 million budget and garnered critical acclaim. Around this time, Pitt expanded his creative horizons by delving into film production. His first major success as a producer was The Departed, though he passed on acting in the film, feeling he was too old for Matt Damon's role. Instead, he chose Babel, setting a new tone for his career. In 2007, Pitt starred in The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, a film he also produced. Despite his willingness to accept a $1 million salary, the movie flopped commercially, earning just $15 million against a $30 million budget. However, Pitt wasn't fazed, acknowledging the film was never meant for mainstream audiences. This artistic commitment marked the start of a streak of 4 consecutive box office hits, including The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Initially envisioned with Tom Cruise in the lead and Steven Spielberg directing, the project languished in development until David Fincher brought Pitt on board, revitalizing the film and delivering another career milestone. The streak ended with Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life, a visually stunning and deeply philosophical film that divided audiences but earned critical praise. Around this time, Jolie aspired to step into the director's chair, envisioning Pitt as the star of an action-packed drama about an African conservationist. She described the lead character as a real Chad, someone only Pitt could embody. However, the project fell apart due to Pitt's packed schedule. Surprisingly, this didn't create tension between the pair. Jolie seemed to take it in stride. Brad Pitt, from side hustles to Hollywood revival. As Brad Pitt's career evolved, he leaned heavily into producing, often starring in his company Plan B's films. Hits like Moneyball and Killing Them softly showcased his knack for balancing critical acclaim with box office potential. But it was 12 Years a Slave, a massive Oscar-winning success, that cemented Plan B as a Hollywood powerhouse. Despite these highs, Pitt's personal and professional life hit turbulence post-World War Z. Films like Fury and The Big Short were successes, but cracks started to show with By the Sea, a vanity project directed by Angelina Jolie. Pitt reportedly joined for personal reasons, but the film flopped spectacularly. Shortly after, Brangelina ended in a highly publicized divorce, which revealed Pitt's struggles with alcoholism and family drama. Flops like Allied and Ad Astra, alongside the lukewarm reception of War Machine, only deepened the perception that Pitt's career was waning. His cameo as an invisible man in Deadpool 2 offered a brief, humorous reprieve, though many viewers didn't realize it was him. Just as it seemed Pitt might fade into the realm of streaming and B-tier films, Quentin Tarantino entered the picture. After years of script rewrites and casting drama, Tarantino returned to Pitt with the role of Cliff Booth in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Initially envisioned for Tom Cruise, the part was reworked into a stuntman tailor-made for Pitt's charm and wit. The gamble paid off. Pitt's performance earned him his first acting Oscar at 56, marking a triumphant return to form. Though Babylon bombed in 2022, Pitt didn't falter. His production company, Plan B, continued to thrive, receiving significant investments and planning major projects to reshape Hollywood. Professionally, Pitt adopted a Zen-like demeanor, akin to Keanu Reeves, most evident in Bullet Train. The film, where Pitt plays a chilled-out assassin, seemed to mirror his real-life quest for inner peace, moving past the chaos of his earlier years. Now, with a comedy action film Wolves alongside George Clooney on the horizon and Plan B's ambitious slate, Pitt proves he's far from over. Despite ongoing legal battles with Jolie and past controversies, he remains a fixture in Hollywood, unsinkable, resilient, and more in control than ever. That little notebook of actors to avoid? It's paying dividends. Brad Pitt, once the golden boy, is now the phoenix of Hollywood, rising again with style and wisdom. Which Brad Pitt-produced film is your favorite? Drop your pick in the comments. Brad Pitt, from Hollywood resilience to personal struggles. Brad Pitt's professional resurgence has been remarkable, with projects like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Bullet Train reaffirming his star power. Yet, behind the scenes, his personal life tells a different story, especially when it comes to his relationship with his children. As Pitt approaches his 61 Saint birthday on December 18th, sources reveal that he's pleading with his youngest children, twins Knox and Vivienne, to spend the day with him and his girlfriend, jewelry designer Inez de Ramon. Brad loves his kids deeply, and it would mean so much if they could share this special day with him, a source shared. However, the chances seem slim, as some of his children remain estranged. Maddox and Pax Thean haven't spoken to Pitt for years, while Zahara and Shiloh have also distanced themselves. Shiloh even filed to remove Pitt's surname from her legal name. Knox and Vivienne remain the only ones who maintain contact, though their relationship with Pitt is rarely publicized. Despite living just a few kilometers apart in Los Angeles, the geographic proximity hasn't bridged the emotional gap between Pitt and his children. If the twins choose not to meet him on his birthday, Pitt reportedly plans to travel with de Ramon instead. Pitt's strained family dynamics are rooted in his tumultuous divorce from Angelina Jolie. He believes Jolie's public moves, such as bringing Knox to the Governor's Awards shortly after his courtroom victory over Chateau Miraval, are calculated to antagonize him. Meanwhile, Jolie has accused Pitt of family abuse, including incidents leading up to their 2016 divorce. In November 2024, Jolie convinced a Los Angeles judge to compel Pitt to provide additional documents related to those allegations. Supporters of Jolie argue that Pitt's past behavior, rather than Jolie's influence, is the reason for the estrangement. They assert that Jolie's parenting philosophy emphasizes freedom and personal choice, not coercion. Amid the ongoing legal battles and fractured relationships, Pitt continues to focus on his career and production company, Plan B. While his professional life exudes a sense of calm and focus, as seen in recent roles like Bullet Train, his personal struggles remain a stark contrast. This duality, Hollywood resilience on one hand and familial heartbreak on the other defines Pitt's current chapter, highlighting his complex journey from stardom to introspection. Brad Pitt, from action star to industry pioneer. As Brad Pitt entered the 2020s, his career took on a new dimension, blending his iconic on-screen presence with his growing influence behind the scenes. With his production company Plan B flourishing, Pitt not only starred in major projects, but also shaped Hollywood narratives from the ground up. In 2022, Pitt headlined Bullet Train, a quirky action comedy that let him showcase his comedic chops and action prowess. Directed by David Leitch, the film was a high-energy blend of chaos and charm, with Pitt playing a hapless assassin trying to stay zen amidst deadly encounters. The film resonated with audiences, proving Pitt could still deliver blockbuster appeal while embracing his age and evolving style. His relaxed, almost Buddha-like portrayal of the character mirrored his own personal journey toward inner peace amidst years of public scrutiny and personal challenges. Off-screen, Pitt remained a trailblazer as a producer. Plan B continued its streak of critically acclaimed films, including She Said 2022, which shed light on the Me Too movement. The company's ability to balance art and impact earned Pitt widespread respect in the industry, making him more than just a movie star. He became a tastemaker. Despite these professional highs, his personal life remained turbulent. Ongoing legal battles with Angelina Jolie over custody and their shared winery, Chateau Miraval, kept his name in the headlines for reasons he likely wished to avoid. Still, Pitt's focus on creative projects seemed to ground him. His upcoming ventures include Wolves, a star-studded comedy action film alongside George Clooney, and several ambitious Plan B productions aimed at shaking up Hollywood norms. Brad Pitt's career is a testament to reinvention. Whether he's an action hero, a comedic force, or a behind-the-scenes mogul, he continues to redefine himself, proving that even in the face of challenges, his star power remains undiminished. As he moves forward, Pitt is not just surviving Hollywood, he's shaping it. Years after Angelina Jolie's high-profile divorce from Brad Pitt, shocking new details have emerged that rewrite the narrative we thought we knew. Court documents have surfaced, shedding light on Pitt's alleged addiction struggles and abuse claims, painting a picture far more explosive than anyone could have imagined. This jaw-dropping revelation has left Hollywood reeling. For nearly 4 decades, Brad Pitt has been the golden boy of Hollywood, a heartthrob with an impressive resume of blockbuster films, a passion for global philanthropy, and a reputation as a doting father to his adopted and biological children. But behind the scenes, a different story emerges, one of alleged addiction, abuse, and a dark side that has reportedly cost him his marriage, his business ventures, and, most heartbreakingly, the respect of his children. These allegations, which have surfaced before, are now coming into sharper focus through newly uncovered court documents, and they reveal a picture far grimmer than anyone could have imagined. Pitt's team has long been adept at keeping controversies under wraps, but this time, the details are too explosive to ignore. What's worse, these revelations may be enough to tarnish his carefully cultivated public image, raising the question, will the public finally turn its back on Brad Pitt? Today, we'll unravel the layers of this unfolding scandal, from the shocking claims laid bare in court to decades of lawsuits and family turmoil that seem to lead back to one key flashpoint, the vineyard Brad and Angelina once shared. To truly understand how this seemingly idyllic partnership unraveled, we'll examine not only the business feud, but also the deeper cracks in their family dynamic. What new information is so damning? And is there any hope left for Brad Pitt to salvage his reputation, or is this just the beginning of his fall from grace? To fully understand how Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's relationship unraveled, we need to rewind and explore who they were before fate brought them together on October 2nd, 2005. A date that marked not just a new beginning for them, but also the end of Brad's marriage to Jennifer Aniston. Whether or not there was physical infidelity, it's widely speculated that Brad was emotionally absent long before the split. A fact made even clearer when his chemistry with Angelina on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith became too palpable to ignore. Brad and Angelina couldn't have come from more contrasting worlds. Born into a traditional Midwestern family, Brad grew up in Springfield, Missouri. His dad owned a trucking company, his mom was a school counselor, and their enduring marriage reflected the stability of Brad's all-American upbringing. He was the golden boy, active in sports, debate, musical theater, and seemingly destined for a straight and narrow life. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Angelina's world was anything but conventional. The daughter of actor Jon Voight and Marceline Bertrand, Angelina grew up in the shadow of Hollywood's dysfunction. Her father left when she was a baby, forcing her mother to give up acting to raise her children alone. While Brad was thriving in the safety of his suburban bubble, Angelina was exploring darker territories, dabbling in embalming classes at 16 with aspirations of becoming a funeral director. Even their struggles couldn't have been more different. Brad, in his late teens and early 20s, was a college student studying journalism and advertising, seemingly on track for a pragmatic career. Angelina, by contrast, was living on her own, battling depression, self-harm, severe drug addiction, and surviving 2 suicide attempts by the age of 22. The stark contrast in their early lives is startling when juxtaposed with the people they would later become. Brad, the quintessential golden boy, now faces allegations that have tarnished his image. Meanwhile, Angelina, who once lived on the edge, has emerged as a global humanitarian and devoted mother. It's almost as if their divergent pasts planted the seeds for the challenges that would eventually tear them apart. What do you think about the stark contrast in Brad and Angelina's upbringings? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. But let's park that thought for a moment. What matters right now is that despite their vastly different upbringings, by the time Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie crossed paths on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith in 2005, they found common ground in their shared passion for entrepreneurship and philanthropy. However, their meeting was far from a Hollywood fairy tale. For one, Brad was still married to Jennifer Aniston, who was at the height of her friend's fame, a detail that instantly made their budding connection controversial. Adding fuel to the fire, Brad already had a reputation for dating co-stars, from Juliette Lewis to Gwyneth Paltrow. Angelina, on the other hand, was navigating life as a divorced, single working mom, juggling her career with raising a young son. Yet, in the court of public opinion, she was immediately labeled the other woman. True or not, Angelina bore the brunt of the backlash, while Brad, in typical 2000s fashion, largely escaped unscathed. Despite the tabloid frenzy, the pair, soon branded Brangelina, defied the odds. They rose above the bad press, showing the world that their bond was deeper than the drama. Over time, it became clear that they weren't just united by romance, but also by a vision for the future. From humanitarian missions to business ventures, Brad and Angelina seemed perfectly in sync, as though they were building an empire designed to outshine any scandal that tried to bring them down. Angelina Jolie's love for children was evident long before she met Brad Pitt. In 2002, she adopted her first son, Maddox, from Cambodia, and by the time she crossed paths with Brad on Mr. and Mrs. Smith in 2005, she had already begun building her family. Just a year later, in 2005, Angelina adopted her second child, Zahara, from Ethiopia. Brad, reportedly smitten not just with Angelina, but also with her kids, became deeply involved in their lives from the start, traveling with them and stepping into a fatherly role. In 2006, he took things a step further by officially adopting Maddox and Zahara. That same year, Brad and Angelina welcomed their first biological child, Shiloh, solidifying their growing family. But the Jolie Pitts didn't stop there. In 2007, they adopted their fourth child, Pax, from Vietnam. And just a year later, in 2008, they completed their family with the birth of twins, Vivian and Knox. Their household was undoubtedly chaotic, but Brad and Angelina thrived in the madness. Even with 6 kids in tow, they continued to dominate Hollywood with blockbuster roles while making time for humanitarian efforts and new business ventures, including purchasing Chateau Miraval, the French vineyard that would later play a central role in their family's story. In those early years, Miraval was a sanctuary for the Jolie Pitt clan. The family would often retreat to the vineyard for holidays and celebrations, finding peace in its idyllic setting. It was here, in 2014, that Brad and Angelina finally tied the knot after years of waiting to support the legalization of same-sex marriage in the United States. Their wedding was a family affair. With all 6 kids playing key roles, Maddox and Pax walked Angelina down the aisle, Zahara and Vivienne served as flower girls, and Shiloh and Knox acted as ring bearers. Angelina's wedding dress was even embroidered with drawings by the children, making it a deeply personal and symbolic celebration. For a time, Miraval represented everything they cherished: family, love, and the life they had built together. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the Jolie Pitt saga, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more in-depth celebrity stories. You won't want to miss what's coming next. The Jolie Pitts didn't just pour love into their family, they poured it into their ventures. Chateau Miraval, their French vineyard, blossomed into a multi-million-dollar business, producing one of the world's top rosés. Brad especially invested heavily, both financially and physically, into building the brand, demonstrating a clear passion and vision. That vineyard became their personal and professional haven, a place where they nurtured not only their business, but also their bond as a couple. After their 2014 wedding, they even found time to work together creatively, starring in By the Sea, a film Angelina wrote and directed. Their relationship seemed unshakable, particularly when Angelina faced a health scare in 2015. She underwent surgery to remove her ovaries and fallopian tubes as a precaution against cancer, and Brad immediately flew to her side from France, demonstrating his steadfast support. Sure, having millions and a private jet helps with spontaneity, but it was clear that their commitment to each other remained strong. Then came 2016, the year everything unraveled. After what should have been another serene getaway at Miraval, the family boarded a plane from France to Los Angeles. By the time they landed, their lives had changed forever. Angelina filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, and headlines exploded with shocking allegations of an incident aboard the private jet. Reports revealed a heated argument between Brad and members of the family, triggering an investigation by the FBI and Los Angeles child welfare officials. Details were murky at first. Brad's team claimed it was an intoxicated argument that spiraled out of control, but insisted no physical harm occurred. They acknowledged that Brad had placed his hands on one of the children during the confrontation, but vehemently denied claims of physical abuse. Meanwhile, the FBI drafted a statement of probable cause, but ultimately chose not to file charges. Despite the ambiguity, the damage was done. Overnight, the Jolie Pitt empire crumbled, leaving behind a fractured family and a public desperate for answers. But then TMZ dropped a bombshell. Their report alleged something far darker behind Angelina Jolie's decision to file for divorce. According to sources, Angelina had grown increasingly fed up with Brad Pitt's use of weed and alcohol, which, combined with what she believed to be an anger problem, created an environment she felt was dangerous for their children. While the public speculated there had to be more to the story, in 2016, that was the extent of what we knew. Angelina, typically private, said little beyond seeking and winning full custody of their children. Brad, in contrast, moved next door, committed to sobriety, and gained supervised visitation rights with the younger kids. For a while, it seemed as though life moved on, but the clouds hadn't cleared completely. Angelina's history with her own father, John Voight, loomed in the background. She had grown up with a strained relationship with him, going no contact for years despite both working in the same industry. It was a dynamic she likely didn't want repeated with her children. Remarkably, she created a shared living arrangement, essentially building a compound where Brad could remain a part of their kids' lives. It was a quiet move that spoke volumes about her priorities. Meanwhile, Brad appeared to embark on a redemption arc. Publicly, he turned his attention to promoting diverse voices, backing women and minority-led projects like the OA, Paper Girls, Minari, and If Beale Street Could Talk. He opened up about his Midwest roots and sobriety in interviews, revealing a deeply personal battle. "I can't remember a day since college when I wasn't boozing or had a spliff or something," he admitted to GQ. A lot of it was pacifiers, running from feelings. "I'm really happy to be done with all that. I've got my feelings in my fingertips again." For a moment, it seemed like Brad was finding balance, rebuilding his image and perhaps his life. But with a past this complicated and so many unresolved issues swirling around that infamous flight, the full truth felt like it was still waiting to emerge. Even as Brad Pitt's public image seemed to recover, the actions of his children hinted at a far more fractured reality behind the scenes. By 2020, 4 years after the infamous flight that reportedly shattered the Jolie Pitt family, his 16-year-old son, Pax, made waves with a scathing private Instagram post that was later reported by multiple major outlets. While the post hasn't been officially verified by Pax or his family, the fact that no one has denied its authenticity in the years since has lent it credibility. In the alleged post, Pax didn't hold back. "Happy Father's Day to this world-class expletive. You time and time again prove yourself to be a terrible and despicable person. You have no consideration or empathy toward your 4 youngest children, who tremble in fear when in your presence. You will never understand the damage you have done to my family because you are incapable of doing so. You have made the lives of those closest to me a constant hell. You may tell yourself and the world whatever you want, but the truth will come to light someday." Sure, Pax was a teenager at the time, and teens can be prone to emotional outbursts, but the sheer intensity and specificity of his words paint a troubling picture. This wasn't just about a single bad flight or one isolated incident. It sounded like the reflection of years of unresolved pain and a potentially abusive family dynamic. Whether Brad's reformation was genuine or a carefully curated PR narrative, it's clear that at least some of his children have yet to reconcile their own experiences with his public persona. Do you think Pax's bold words reflect unresolved trauma, or are they just a moment of teenage rebellion? Share your perspective below. We'd love to hear what you think. And Pax isn't alone in creating distance from Brad Pitt as the years have passed. By 2021, reports emerged that Maddox, the oldest of the Jolie Pitt children, had allegedly dropped Pitt from his name on everything except legal documents. The trend continued with Zahara in 2023, who introduced herself simply as Zahara Marlene Jolie during her Spelman College sorority recruitment, forgoing her father's surname entirely. Most recently, in 2024, Brad's youngest daughter, Vivian, credited herself as Vivian Jolie in the playbill for The Outsiders. But it was Shiloh, Brad and Angelina's first biological child, who stirred up the most attention. Once known as a daddy's girl, Shiloh reportedly had a close relationship with Brad. In April 2024, there were even reports that she planned to move into Brad's home next door to spend more time with him. Yet, just a month later, everything shifted. On May 3rd, RD, 3 days after her 18th of the birthday, Shiloh filed to legally change her name to Shiloh Jolie. Her lawyer cited painful events as the driving reason behind the decision. Brad's reaction, as reported by US Weekly, was one of heartbreak. To him, it was more than a change of name. It was a symbol of a deeper estrangement that has been brewing for years. His team continued to present him as blindsided by the situation, but the mounting evidence suggests these fractures in the family have long been forming. So what caused this estrangement in the first place? The answers are beginning to surface, and unsurprisingly, they're linked to the same dark chapter that has haunted the family for years, Chateau Miraval. Chateau Miraval, once a symbol of love, family, and unity for the Jolie Pitt clan, has now become the epicenter of their post-divorce legal battles. The vineyard, cherished for its role in their family holidays, celebrations, and even their wedding, became a battleground after Angelina Jolie decided in 2021 that she wanted out. Given that Brad Pitt had admitted alcohol was a factor in the infamous 2016 plane incident, it's easy to understand why Angelina no longer wanted any ties to the vineyard or the painful memories it represented. The issue? When Brad and Angelina originally purchased Miraval, they had agreed that if either decided to sell their shares, they would offer them to each other first before bringing in outside buyers. Instead, Angelina quietly sold her stake to Russian oligarch Yuri Shefler. The move outraged Brad, prompting him to sue her for breach of contract. According to Brad's lawsuit, Shefler's ties to Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation not only tarnished Miraval's reputation, especially amid the invasion of Ukraine, but also included alleged threats to push Brad out of the business entirely. In response, Angelina countersued Brad for $250 million, claiming she had, in fact, offered to sell her shares to him first. The issue, she argued, wasn't the sale itself, but the conditions Brad's legal team tried to impose. Specifically, they demanded Angelina sign an NDA that would prevent her from ever discussing the abuse allegations or any related matters publicly. For Angelina, this was a deal-breaker. Refusing to be silenced, she moved forward with the sale to Shefler. Her legal team also noted that Shefler had publicly denounced Putin and even been targeted by the regime, including a reported kidnapping attempt. The NDA became the linchpin of the legal dispute, opening the floodgates for details about Brad's alleged abuse to surface in court filings. Angelina's team argued that the extreme nature of the NDA request and her refusal to comply was why she had to sell her shares outside their original agreement. What began as a business feud over a French vineyard quickly escalated into a courtroom saga, revealing layers of personal and professional conflict that might never have come to light otherwise. All roads, it seems, lead back to Miraval, the place where it all began and the place where everything started to fall apart. Let's get real for a moment. If you think the vineyard drama and custody battles were messy, the court documents from Angelina Jolie's countersuit take things to an entirely different level. According to her filings, Brad Pitt's alleged history of emotional and physical abuse didn't start with that infamous 2016 flight. It had been happening for years. And Angelina claims she can back it all up with testimony, emails, photographs, and other evidence. One of the more shocking revelations ties back to none other than Harvey Weinstein. Angelina had previously shared that she had a bad experience with Weinstein in her early career. But in 2021, she opened up about the full scope of what happened. Allegedly, when she was just 21, Weinstein tried to assault her. Angelina described it as beyond a pass and said, "It was something I had to escape." She warned others, including her first husband, Johnny Lee Miller, to spread the word and ensure women didn't end up alone with Weinstein. What's even more upsetting is how Brad allegedly handled this knowledge. Angelina claims she told Brad about the assault, yet in 2012, he worked directly with Weinstein on the distribution of Killing Them Softly. Against Angelina's wishes, Brad reportedly approached Weinstein himself to strike the deal. Imagine knowingly working with someone who had attempted to assault your wife, a man she actively warned others about. This decision feels less like professional ambition and more like a profound betrayal. Some speculate Brad's actions could reflect emotional manipulation, a common tactic in relationships where one partner uses control or passive-aggressive behavior to undermine the other. By disregarding Angelina's wishes in such a deeply personal matter, Brad's actions likely exacerbated the tension in their marriage. From the outside, their life may have looked golden, but behind the scenes, it was anything but. These revelations cast a darker shadow over their relationship, making it clear that the turmoil brewing under the surface wasn't just about a bad flight or family squabbles. It was a systemic breakdown rooted in years of unresolved trauma and conflict. This story just keeps unfolding, and we're here to break it all down for you. If you're as hooked as we are, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll never miss an update. The details emerging from Angelina Jolie's cross complaint paint a deeply troubling picture of what allegedly happened during that infamous 2016 flight from France to Los Angeles, a moment that fractured the Jolie-Pitt family and led to their eventual separation. According to the court documents, Brad Pitt's aggressive behavior reportedly began even before the plane took off, with tensions escalating rapidly during the flight. Angelina claims that Brad was already displaying signs of agitation and intoxication when he verbally confronted one of their children, allegedly making disparaging remarks, including calling the child a Colleen kid and accusing Angelina of being too deferential to their kids. About an hour and a half into the flight, things reportedly took a distressing turn. Brad allegedly demanded Angelina join him in the plane's small bathroom, where he accused her of ruining the family, grabbed her by the head and shoulders, shook her, and pushed her against the wall. He then reportedly hit the ceiling in a fit of frustration. When one of the children asked if their mother was okay, Brad allegedly shouted, "No, Mommy's not okay. She's ruining this family. She's out of control." According to the complaint, this prompted their eldest child, believed to be Maddox, to intervene, trying to defend his mother. It was at this moment that Brad's anger reportedly turned toward his children. Brad allegedly lunged at the child, and Angelina stepped in to stop him, grabbing him from behind. In response, Brad is said to have thrown himself backward, causing injuries to Angelina's back and elbow in the process. The situation escalated further, with the children rushing in to protect each other. Brad allegedly grabbed one child by the neck area and struck another. The documents describe a chaotic scene, frightened children crying and pleading for Brad to stop, all while he continued shouting, using harsh language, and even pouring liquid on Angelina and the kids. When the plane landed, the ordeal wasn't over. Angelina reportedly woke Brad from his sleep to tell him she and the children were leaving for a hotel. Brad allegedly reacted by yelling at her, barring the family from leaving the plane for 20 minutes and continuing the confrontation. According to the complaint, he grabbed and shook Angelina by the head and shoulders again, all while their children begged him to stop. The confrontation reportedly ended with Brad turning to his family, children as young as 8, and yelling, "You're all horrible." While Brad's team has denied many of these allegations, it's fair to speculate that his substance use issues played a significant role in this reported behavior. Brad has admitted publicly to struggles with alcohol, describing it as a long-standing problem he's worked to overcome in recent years. However, the alleged actions on that flight leave a lasting shadow over his public image and raise serious questions about the long-term impact on his family. While Brad has reportedly embraced sobriety, his children's actions suggest that deeper wounds remain unhealed. Trauma doesn't have a timeline, and expecting his kids to simply forgive and move on ignores the validity of their experiences. Their need for emotional and physical safety is paramount, and their distance from him speaks volumes about the lingering effects of what they endured. Despite these allegations and strained relationships, Brad has faced minimal public consequences. His marriage may have ended, his beloved winery may be mired in legal battles, and his children may have gone no contact, but his professional life remains largely untouched. Brad is still a Hollywood power player, gracing magazine covers, starring in blockbuster films, producing award-winning projects, and even launching a gin company. He's dating again, this time with Paul Wesley's ex-wife, Inez de Ramon, and remains part of Hollywood's elite social circles, rubbing shoulders with stars like George and Amal Clooney. Sobriety is an important step forward, and for many, it can be life-changing. Recovering individuals often become markedly different people compared to who they were in the midst of addiction. However, sobriety alone isn't a cure-all. Patterns of abusive behavior stem from deeper issues that require sustained work to address. Intoxication doesn't create abuse out of nowhere. It amplifies existing tendencies. If Brad truly wants to repair his relationship with his children, accountability and genuine self-reflection are essential. A sincere apology, as we've explored in our Celebrity Apology Breakdown, can be a powerful starting point, but it's not enough on its own. Dropping the lawsuit against Angelina Jolie could demonstrate a willingness to prioritize his family's healing over financial and legal battles. It wouldn't erase the past, but it could offer his children a sense of stability and show them he's serious about change. What's perhaps most troubling is the relative silence surrounding these allegations. Brad's continued success and public adoration highlight a persistent problem in Hollywood: the tendency to overlook or downplay troubling behavior from powerful men. The lack of accountability isn't just a reflection of Brad's personal journey. It's a glaring commentary on how fame can shield people from facing the consequences of their actions. If meaningful change is to happen, both on a personal and cultural level, it starts with holding people accountable, no matter how beloved they may be. Can Brad ever truly rebuild his relationship with his kids, or has the damage gone too far? Drop your opinions in the comments. Brad Pitt, gracing the September 2024 cover of GQ alongside George Clooney to promote his latest film Wolves, serves as a glaring reminder of how public figures often emerge unscathed from serious allegations. Despite years of troubling claims, Brad's reputation appears largely intact, a reflection of Hollywood's tendency to shield its most powerful stars. This sends a chilling message. If you're famous and influential, accountability becomes optional. What's particularly troubling is the uphill battle Angelina Jolie, someone with immense public goodwill and virtually unlimited resources, has faced in trying to be heard. If someone as high-profile as Angelina struggles to make people listen, what hope does an ordinary individual have? How does a single parent in the Midwest, with no platform or wealth, expect to find justice or even validation in the face of abuse? Angelina's legal efforts illustrate the lengths she's had to go to for answers. Filing a Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, lawsuit against the FBI under a pseudonym, she uncovered that the investigating agent had drafted a statement of probable cause during the 2016 abuse inquiry. This statement was submitted to the United States Attorney's Office in Los Angeles, but no charges were filed against Brad. It's a sobering revelation, raising questions about how systemic barriers protect powerful individuals from facing the consequences of their actions. For Angelina and her children, this legal battle has been exhausting, and one can only imagine the emotional toll it has taken on them. Yet, as this saga continues to unfold, it underscores a vital truth: holding people accountable, regardless of their status, is essential. In recent weeks, new allegations and legal filings have surfaced, further complicating Brad Pitt's ongoing narrative. The legal battle with Angelina Jolie over Chateau Miraval continues to intensify, with Jolie's team presenting more evidence to substantiate claims of emotional and physical abuse during their marriage. According to recent reports, the case has taken another sharp turn, focusing on Jolie's refusal to sign a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, as a condition for selling her shares of the vineyard to Pitt, a move her legal team argues was an attempt to silence her. Adding to the tension, court filings reportedly include correspondence and testimony indicating that Jolie made repeated efforts to prioritize her children's well-being, even while navigating Pitt's alleged volatile behavior. This development has sparked renewed scrutiny of Pitt's image, especially given his public efforts to position himself as a reformed figure. Meanwhile, the fallout within the family shows no signs of mending. Shiloh Jolie Pitt's recent legal name change and the estrangement of Pax, Maddox, Zahara, and Vivian from their father continue to raise questions about the depth of the family's fractures. Despite this, Brad remains a Hollywood fixture, with upcoming projects like Wolves keeping him firmly in the public eye. As Brad promotes his latest work and graces magazine covers, the dichotomy between his professional success and personal turmoil is more apparent than ever. For a star who has long been Hollywood's golden boy, the lingering accusations present a stark reminder that even the most carefully crafted public personas can be overshadowed by unresolved truths. These ongoing revelations and legal battles highlight an enduring cultural issue, the power of fame to shield individuals from accountability. The question remains, how much longer can Pitt maintain his public standing before these allegations force a broader reckoning? One thing is clear, the world is watching closely. We'll continue to follow this story, not just for the shocking headlines, but to spotlight the need for justice and the gaps that allow cycles of abuse to persist. After all, where there's scandal, there's an opportunity to advocate for change. And that's a narrative worth paying attention to.